Welcome back. You're watching The Buddy Show with me, Kavita Thapliyal, and now it's time for tax saving discussion. So, with the deadline to file income tax returns fast approaching, perhaps it is the right time to review your investments and understand how you can invest in tax efficient manner. What are the do's and don'ts that one must keep in mind to save taxes? Let's welcome on board Feroze Azeez, Deputy CEO, Anand Rathi Private Wealth Management, to answer all of these questions. Feroze, a very crucial period going on as far as ITR filings are concerned, and obviously a tax special class that we have started for our viewers also. Every day we teach them something or the other for their last minute ITR filing, but then today, efficient ways of having tax saving investments in your portfolio. And as far as the do's and don'ts are concerned, I'm sure you have a very long list. But then, why is it important to understand the most efficient way of tax investing and not just going into any product and putting in money because you just see a tax saving angle to it? Why is it important?
Kavita, good evening. Like you said, that tax can't be the primary objective of any investment. That has to be the second or the tertiary objective of investment. The first objective is return risk adjusted. If that makes sense from your portfolio standpoint, if its time of investment marries with your goal, all those are far, far more critical than taxation at all. Because tax on a specific instrument can never be computed. Because tax has to be at a file level, at a SSE level. So I might buy myself a 20% tax instrument, but if I have losses from equity, I can set it off. So point one I'm making is the primary objective of investment is to help you meet a specific goal. Second, how do you meet a specific goal? By buying instruments which are the best in terms of risk to reward or reward to risk they take. That's the second. So tax can just be an extra catalyst to enhance the probability of that product meritoriously forming a part of your portfolio. So that's why you should never go you should never change the chronological order of importance of criteria, choice of criteria.
All right, so let's begin with the do's list. Your choice, you pick, Feroze. The do's list or the don't list, whatever you say. Let's start with the do's list, tax efficient investing. Yeah, what do you have to say?
Yeah, of course, the do's are the more positive way of starting. So let's go with the do's first, Kavita. So first is make sure that when you're filing your return, the ATC claims are made. Right? Because quite a few of them are voluntary, quite a few of them are involuntary. You might have started an SIP and a scheme long back, but that actually gives you a tax credit today as well. So make sure that your ATC is correctly computed. When you compute, the advantage is if you've already overshot that budget, that will be an input to your strategy for the next year of investing. See, if the limit is 1.5 lakhs, and if I've already invested 2 lakhs this year, when I'm trying to compute, of course, there's no tax credit this year because you've already superseded the maximum limit which is permitted, and that's remained static from 2014. So the next year, I'm very, very conscious that I don't need to make any other ATC investments. So that's point one. The second is employee provident fund is a great debt instrument, and quite a few of them use insurance policies which are the diametrically opposite end in terms of return and risk reward. They choose that, but they take a traditional plan, but they skip their EPF installments, or they voluntarily choose not to be in EPF to the extent they can be, depending on their basic salary. So 8.1% is a large return. So use EPF rather than traditional plans is the second do. Third, which is missed out, every budget I see people wanting new gifts from the government. But when I look back and see, so many gifts are not utilized, but they like to have new gifts. LTCG of 1 lakh rupees, which is exempt on equity, please use that. Book your profits to the extent per financial year, per family member, book that 1 lakh and save that 11,000 rupees, including cess. This could be 3 do's, and I'll stop here to keep the monologue short, Kavita.
I just want to understand, going on with the do's list that you have, you've spoken about switching to SWP as compared to dividend scheme for meeting your liquidity requirements. How is this a tax efficient way of investing? If you could just decode this angle.
See, a systematic withdrawal plan is an opposite of a home loan EMI, if I have to draw up an analogy. When you cut a home loan EMI gets debited, there's a principal component and there's an interest component. Similarly, when you ask for money in the form of systematic withdrawal plan, let's assume I have a 1 crore invested. I can wait for dividend, or I can tell the asset management company to give me 50,000 rupees per month from my debt fund. When they credit 50,000 rupees, this 50,000 will come as one chunk, okay, which is nothing but 12 installments of 50,000 works out to be 6 lakhs per annum, right? So it's 6% per annum. Most debt funds give you that return. But when you take that 50,000 in your bank account, those units are of two kinds. One are principal units. The other are the full units. The full 50,000 is not your profit, because there's a capital value and there is a return value. So if I try and summarize it so far, when you get a 50,000 credit, you don't have to pay tax on the full 50,000. You have to compute the return in that 50,000 rupees. It might just be 5,000 rupees out of your 50,000 rupees. So the tax implication currently will only be on the 5,000 rupees rather than the full 50,000 rupees. If this was 50,000 rupee interest credit from a fixed deposit, the entire 50,000 was taxable at marginal tax rate. In this case, it won't be that way.
Okay. Feroze, moving on, why do you think a growth option as per the options available under a mutual fund scheme is more tax efficient?
See, dividends now are added to your income of that specific year, right? If you are in the tax bracket of 30%, and if you have chosen an equity fund to be in the dividend option, if you got a dividend credit, like this happened with me, unfortunately, ironically, that there's one of the Franklin folios which stayed in dividend and they gave me a large dividend, and that added to my income straight away. And I paid whatever 42% last year as per my tax slab, including cess and surcharge. Otherwise, I would have paid only 10% tax if I redeemed it whenever I so redeemed it. So dividends in the country currently are taxed at the income slab you currently are. Let's assume you have no income, then there's no problem. But if you're already breached 10-15 lakhs of income, every rupee you earn is going to be taxed at 30% incrementally. Whereas long-term capital gains is at 10%, short-term capital gains at 15%. So what's the point of having a sword on your head of 30% taxation?
All right. In the end, why do you think debt mutual funds are still tax efficient as compared to a fixed deposit, even after the tax change on them?
See, there are two reasons. One is fixed deposits. The tax of a fixed deposit is on a real-time basis. By which I mean, if you earned a tax interest in a fixed deposit this year, you will have to, irrespective of whether it's credited to your bank account or not, you will have to pay tax as per the accrual of the interest in the fixed deposit. But in a debt fund, if I don't sell anything for 10 years, I don't pay any tax for the 10-year period. So this tax deferral, so tax is collected at point of sale. If I don't sell, I don't have a tax implication. So this differential, because of power of compounding, diverges to be attractive enough. If both the instruments were to give the same return, I would still choose on a tax basis, tax efficient basis, I would choose a debt fund.
All right, let's quickly move on to the don'ts aspect also. And yeah, you can just take it one by one, Feroze.
Yes. So if you look at don'ts from a perspective of taxation, don't try and ever use some provisions which may look very optically attractive but may not be active. So what you have to first do is try and check which is the better tax regime for you. The new one could just be a good tax regime. Don't just take the older regime because it has several provisions. Okay, ensure that you're not booking short-term capital gains unnecessarily. That's the second don't. Because when you book, now I see several people being agnostic. In February, they've booked a short-term capital gain because the short-term capital gains have a taxation of 15-odd%. That's second don't. Third is don't eliminate Section 80D from your deductions, because 80C is so popular. Section 80D gets ignored quite a few times. Don't ignore any of these sections of 80s, which can be attractive if you've chosen the older regime. Don't delay your tax planning, because if you want to do prudent investing along with tax planning, it will require the might of time. So you can't do that last minute and still go right with your investments. So these are the few don'ts, Kavita, which come to my mind, which need to be internalized by most taxpayers.
Sure. So these were the tips on your tax efficient investing, but welcome back. You're watching The Buddy Show with me, Kavita Thaplial, and now it's time for tax saving discussion. So, with the deadline to file income tax returns fast approaching, perhaps it is the right time to review your investments and understand how you can invest in tax efficient manner. What are the do's and don'ts that one must keep in mind to save taxes? Let's welcome on board Feroze Azeez, Deputy CEO, Anand Rathi Private Wealth Management, to answer all of these questions. Feroze, a very crucial period going on as far as ITR filings are concerned, and obviously a tax special class that we have started for our viewers also. Every day we teach them something or the other for their last minute ITR filing, but then today, efficient ways of having tax saving investments in your portfolio, and as far as the do's and don'ts